Good evening, ladies. I hope you've all had a wonderful day. Tonight we have very many special presentations and special guests in honor of Flag Day. So first, I would like to welcome Mr. Steve Wright from Pine Grove, West Virginia. Mr. Wright is our 2015 to 2017 Sons of the American Legion Detachment Commander. Founded in 1932, Sons of the American Legion exists to honor the service and sacrifice of Legionnaires. Sons of the American Legion members include males of all ages whose parents or grandparents served in the U.S. military and were eligible for American Legion membership. Members of the American Legion Auxilary, and Sons of the American Legion comprise the Legion family, which has a combined membership of nearly 4.2 million. Although Sons has its own membership, the organization is not a separate entity. Rather, Sons of the American Legion is a program of the American Legion. Many Legionnaires hold dual membership in Sons of the American Legion. The Sons organization is divided into detachments at the state level and squadrons at the local level. A squadron pairs with a local American Legion post. A squadron's charter is contingent upon its parent post's charter. However, squadrons can determine the extent of their services to the community, state, and nation. They are permitted flexibility in planning programs and activities to meet their needs, but must remember the Sons of the American Legion's mission, to strengthen the 4 pillars of the American Legion. Therefore, squadrons campaigns place an emphasis on preserving American traditions and values, improving the quality of life for our nation's children, caring for veterans and their families, and teaching the fundamentals of good citizenship. Since 1988, Sons of the American Legion has raised more than $5 million for the American Legion Child Welfare Foundation. Sons of the American Legion members have volunteered over 250,000 hours at veterans hospitals and raised over $915,688 for VA hospitals and VA homes. The Sons also support the Citizens Flag Alliance, a coalition dedicated to protecting the U.S. flag from desecration through a constitutional amendment. Please give a warm welcome for Mr. Steve Wright. Thank you very much for being here.
I think I need to take this bio with me. This is pretty good. She knows more about the Sons of the American Legion than I do. I'd like to welcome you all to Rhododendron Girls State. I'd like to have been here Sunday, but I had other commitments. Nice trip over here. This is a little discerning for me. I'm not used to speaking to this many young ladies. I'm used to talking to a bunch of guys that kind of frown at you all the time. You're here for one reason. Well, a lot of reasons, but you're here because someone, sometime, thought this girl, this young lady, will make a leader someday. You're here to learn how our government is supposed to work, and I emphasize that, is supposed to work. You're here for your communities, your state, your nation, and I look forward to seeing some of your names on a ballot one of these days, because I know that you'll follow up on the things you learned here. The other reason I'm here, I am also a member of the American Legion Riders of West Virginia, Chapter 28 in New Martinsville. And we do a ride, for the last few years, we've done a ride for Boys State. Well, this year we decided it was time to do a little bit for Girls State too. So, Michelle, if you would come up, please. On behalf of Chapter 28 American Legion Riders, I have a check will cover some of the expenses for next year.
Well, thank you. On behalf of the American Legion Auxilary and Rhododendron Girls State, we thank you and the riders for this donation. Thank you.
Thank you, girls. Enjoy your week.
Thank you again, Mr. Steve Wright, for your donation and for being here this evening. Also in attendance this evening is American Legion Auxiliary's first Vice President, Miss Tammy Workman. We will be seeing her next year as she will become our 2016-2017 American Legion Auxiliary Department of West Virginia President. It is a true honor to introduce this next speaker who will tell us the Poppy story. Irene Weber began her career as a member and volunteer with the American Legion Auxiliary in 1963. She became involved with the Girl State program in 1968. Needless to say, she has given a lifetime of service to this organization and this program. Ms. Weber had the privilege of serving as Central Division National Vice President. She is a past department president, was a member of the staff of Girls Nation, and served in nearly all positions here at Rhododendron Girls State, serving as our director from 1997 to 2013. Please give the warmest of Girls State welcomes to Mrs. Irene Weber.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it is an honor for me to share the Poppy story with you this evening. And as I am telling you the story, the counselor from Calhoun I'm thinking of Jackson's Mill, Calhoun community will be studying down here making poppies. So when this is over, if you would like to see how each poppy is fashioned, she will show you, because each poppy is made by a veteran's hands, and ours is made in Barbersville, West Virginia. So I want to share this story with you. And you know, I've been a member for 54 years, but I've had some wonderful, wonderful mentors. And one of my mentors' name was Laura Mercer. She was from Moundsville, and she was a great lady. This is her story that I want to share with you tonight. So, The Poppy Story by Laura B. Mercer, Girl State, 1982, and I quote, "More than 70 years ago, red poppies have been worn, red poppies have been worn proudly by Americans to commemorate Memorial Day. I would like to tell you the significance of this flower. From 1914 to 1918, the battlefields of Europe were trampled by the boots of millions of fighting men. From 1917 to 1918, American troops were part of the Allied forces, which fought to bring peace to Europe. In Flanders, the only touch of life and beauty were often saw was the wild poppies that bloomed amid the rubble of war. Along the trenches, around the shell craters, and among the barbed wire and wreckage, the little poppies grew and bloomed. The tiny blossom also covered the graves of American fighting men who had fallen on the battlefield. they soon became a symbol of sacrifice to the living and the dead. Mrs. Mercer's two brothers were World War I casualties. One was killed in France. The other one was lost at sea on the USS Cyclops and was never heard of again. Blake Brothers American Legion Post number 46 of Benwood, West Virginia, was named for them. The poppy, as the memorial flower for American war dead, is a tradition which began the years following the First World War. Veterans returning to their homes in this country remembered the wild poppies, which lined the devastating battlefields of France and Flanders. And the soldiers of all nations came to look upon the flower as a living symbol of their dead comrades' sacrifice. We in this country wear the poppy to signify the feeling of reverence in our hearts for the servicemen and women who died for Americans during World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Grenada-Lebanon War, the Panama Conflict, Persian Gulf War, Iraq War, Afghanistan War. The poppy is their flower. However, in addition to serving as a memorial to the war dead, the poppy helps lighten the burden carried by many veterans who returned disabled of mind and body. Making poppies gives employment to those who otherwise would not be able to earn support for themselves or their families. What form of aid could be more effective than helping veterans aid themselves and with productive work? The veterans are paid for the work they do regardless of any government compensation, and the job itself is a relief from long hours spent in a hospital ward with nothing to do. This occupational therapy breaks the monotonous routine of the hospital and gives them a new lease on life. As each poppy leaves the hand of a disabled person, it contributes monetary assistance for their necessity and comfort for not supplied by the hospitals, and a small asked the American Legion Auxilary for permission to make more and more poppies, not only for the money, but because the program offers them the opportunities to do something productive. In our Department of West Virginia, all supplies for making poppies are furnished by the American Legion Auxiliary, and each poppy is made by veterans, for which they are paid 5 cents for each poppy made. The entire proceeds from the poppies are used solely for the relief and welfare of veterans and their families within the local communities, thus aiding those veterans at home who are in need. Veterans who rely upon poppy making for earning money to support their family are to be found in virtually every state in the nation. About 30,000 families are helped by the sale of poppies each year. A Canadian officer, Colonel John McCree, who was killed during World War I, immortalized the poppy by his famous poem, Flanders Field, which I quote. In Flanders Field, the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, The larks still singing bravely fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe, to you from frailing hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high, if ye break faith with us who die. We shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Field. And America's answer was written by R.W. Lillard. And it is, rest ye in peace, ye Flanders dead. The fight that you so bravely led, we've taken up, and we will keep true faith with you who lie asleep, with each a cross to mark his bed, and poppies blowing overhead, when once his own life blood ran red. So let your rest be sweet and deep in Flanders Field. Fear not that ye have died for naught. The torch you threw, we have caught. 10 million hands will hold it high, and freedom's light shall never die. We've learned the lesson that ye taught in Flanders Field. The American Legion Auxiliary has taken up the torch. When you see a veteran-made poppy and are asked to wear one, remember the many, many veterans who gave their lives for this country and the veterans in the hospital who are making this memorial flower. Each poppy tells its own story, as no two are fashioned alike. Each wearer of the poppy tells a story of memorial tribute and aid to someone who needs the helping hand and understanding. A simple flower, 'tis true, but more a symbol of that sacrifice which made and kept us free, and so least, memory dim with time, we wear a poppy for remembrance. Someday in the future, you may be asked to help with this program. I hope you will do it proudly in remembrance of the veterans who gave their all for you and I, and we can enjoy a free life and continue to participate in this Girl State program made possible by the American Legion Auxiliary. Thank you, ladies.
Now, ladies, it is my incredible honor on behalf of Girls State to welcome our special presenters this evening. The first one is Major Mara Campbell Boggs of Kaiser, West Virginia. She enlisted in the Army Reserves in 1994 at age 18 during college. After graduating from West Virginia University in 1998, she entered the Army as an engineer officer and spent 13 years in the active Army, primarily in combat units, serving in the 82nd Airborne Division and the 1st Cavalry Division. She also earned a master's degree from University of Missouri and holds various awards, including the Bronze Star and the Combat Action Badge. While in the Army, Major Boggs spent 2 years in combat in Iraq and traveled to Afghanistan 3 times with congressional delegations. On her second deployment to Iraq in 2006-2007 during the surge, she served as the first woman commander of the unit within the 82nd Airborne Division. Her unit earned the Army's annual award for being the best engineer unit in the Army during her command and performed over 800 combat missions. After her time in the 82nd Airborne, she received a congressional fellowship in Washington, D.C., where she worked on a senator's personal staff for 2 years and served for an additional 2 years on Capitol Hill with the Army, traveling internationally with lawmakers and advising on defense and foreign policy issues. Major Boggs left the Army in December 2011 and has been a member of Senator Joe Manchin's staff since then. Major Boggs worked in Senator Manchin's Washington, D.C. office, where she was the senator's chief of operations and his senior policy advisor for national security and veterans issues. Major Boggs returned home to West Virginia to serve as Senator Manchin's state director. She is married to retired Army Colonel Ken Boggs, who served 4 deployments in Iraq or Afghanistan and served for over 20 years in the military. Major and Colonel Boggs have 2 children, Arabella and Cole. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Major Mara Boggs.
Good evening, Girls State. For God and country, that's the American Legion motto, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Thank you, Katie, for that kind introduction. And to everyone who worked so hard to put Girls State together, especially Michelle Serba, please stand up so we can give you a round of applause. You too, Katie. I'd also like to introduce someone who's very dear to me. Mary Jo Guidi, would you please stand up? This is Mary Jo's 3rd time here this week. She loves Girls State so much. She's Senator Manchin's regional representative in the Northern Panhandle, and she just does a wonderful job, so I hope you all get to know her some this week. Somebody else I'd like to introduce you to, my mom. Paula, please stand up. 51 years ago, my mom was supposed to come to Girls State, but she got sick, so someone had to come in her place. So tonight, Mom, you're finally here at Girls State. It is such an honor to be here with you tonight, especially alongside my dear sister. I'm so proud of Leanne. She's such a role model and always has it going in the right direction. Plus, she had a really cool job in the Army. She was a helicopter pilot, one of the only women in a nearly all-male unit, and she flew countless hours in Iraq during the toughest years of that war. And there are lots of times when I'm out and I meet someone who I haven't seen in a while, and they say to me, "Now, are you the helicopter pilot?" And they're always disappointed that I'm not. So tonight, Leanne and I decided that I would talk first and she would go last, and we'd save the cool sister for last. What an exciting time for you, the summer before your senior year. You are all here because you're leaders, with the world ahead of you full of possibility. Most of you were born in the late 1980s. You were toddlers when the tragedy of September 11th forever changed our world. You were in elementary school when Facebook came onto the scene, and you were teenagers when Osama bin Laden was killed. You have grown up while the nation was at war, and we still live in a dangerous world. Many of you may have friends or family members who served in the military and kept our nation safe. And of course, you know today is Flag Day. This is a day to honor those who have fought for this flag and who have kept our nation the strongest in the world, and it will always be the strongest in the world. So if you are a veteran, if you are a member of the American Legion Auxilary, if you are a family member of a veteran, or if you are in a junior ROTC cadet, please stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you for your service and for supporting those who serve. When Leanne and I were asked to come here this evening, we were greatly honored and humbled. Frankly, we were a little worried that we would have anything of value to say, so we decided to do our best and to give you a few stories from our military careers that show you've already learned everything you need to succeed because of the strong West Virginia values you've grown up with. And we hope that we can show you there's nothing that boys can do that girls can't do better. You will rise up to be the best because you are a West Virginian. See, there's something special about this place that makes you who you are. The beautiful mountains and hills, the good people, the hard work ethic, and the people who are there standing in your corner and cheering for you along the way, just like my mom. I'm 40 years old, and she's still here tonight cheering me along the way. One of the first things I learned after graduating from WVU and entering the military is how these beautiful mountains are forever part of you and give you backbone when you need it most. There's a famous author, Catherine Marshall, who grew up in our hometown of Kaiser, and we have some Kaiserites here tonight too. There you are. She loved the West Virginia mountains, and they influenced many of her works. In one of her most famous books, she said, "I might have felt unimportant, pitted against the awesome might of the mountains. I did not. Rather, on that mountaintop, I found something important that I had never known before, an awareness of a vital connection between me and the authority behind all this beauty." Whether you know it or not, the awesome might of these mountains has influenced you. Maybe in your young life, your strength has been tested, or maybe your greatest challenges still lie ahead. No matter what, you've grown up surrounded by the strength of these awesome mountains and hills, and they are forever in your core. I learned this when I was about 30 years old and was a commander of a unit of about 200 paratroopers in Iraq. We flew from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and landed in Mosul, Iraq. Mosul was then, and still is now, a very dangerous place. As soon as we landed, I looked out the window, and there was a memorial ceremony for a troop who had been killed in combat the day before. Our plane dumped us out in that hot desert night and then turned right back around to America with the body of that fallen service member. After that sobering and solemn moment, our unit received its mission. We would clear and repair damage from roadside bombs, or IEDs as you may know them. Essentially, we would go to the scene of the terrorist crime every single night, or we would try to prevent that crime. We were also charged with cleaning up after car bombs, constructing fortifications in hostile areas, and following alongside the infantry on their missions. No matter what we did, we would be in danger every single day. And I remember this moment very clearly. I was sitting in my vehicle as we left the base for our first mission outside the wire. The decisions that I made or that I didn't make would have very real life or death consequences. I asked myself in a moment of great doubt, how am I going to get all these 200 people home alive? Then I told myself, these 200 people will come home alive. 15 months later, all those paratroopers were home alive. We were missing a leg, and some had been shot or injured, but we were all home alive. And we had accomplished the extraordinary as a strong, cohesive team. I made the decisions, but made them through consultation with my strong team. These mountains make you strong, stronger than you could possibly ever know until that moment you need it most. Your character, just like the character of our great state, has been shaped by the awesome might of these mountains. The second and final story I'd like to leave you with is how I became the first woman commander of my unit. And it's because someone believed in me. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "Do one thing every day that scares you." Well, you can't do something that scares you unless you know there's someone there that believes in you. You don't get too far in life if you do it on your own. There's many people along the way that make it possible for us to succeed. For most of us West Virginians, that's our family and our community. For me, it was certainly my sister and my mom. But I want to tell you a very quick story about a man who believed in me against the odds and against the grain. I was a young captain in the 82nd Airborne Division. It was almost an entirely male unit. Many times my unit was in just as dangerous conditions as the infantry, and this was way before women in the military, the policy decisions came up. Women have always been serving in danger in the military, and I think Leanne and I can prove that. But anyway, the ultimate assignment that any young officer in the 82nd Airborne Division wants is called company command. As a company commander, you are responsible for about 200 paratroopers. All of us young captains were competing for command. You had to run fast, be smart, and display solid leadership. I thought that I would get the headquarters company because back then there just weren't many women officers in engineer units, and certainly none outside of headquarters units. The headquarters unit was a fine company. I would have been honored to command that unit. Then my battalion commander, Colonel Mike Weir, pulled me to the side to discuss the unit that I would command. In the airborne community, a battalion commander walks on water. They are revered and feared, and their word is final. Colonel Weir told me that he selected me to command the 618th Engineers, a unit that no woman had ever commanded. I was shocked and I was really scared. Back then, women faced some pretty tough resistance to being in male units, and I knew what Colonel Weir would face for giving me that unit, and what my family and I would face as well. And most importantly, I didn't want my gender to detract from the distinguished combat lineage of the unit. This was a unit that was seen as elite in the airborne engineer community, and me commanding it was not going to go unnoticed. So it might not have been the best judgment at the time, and I probably wouldn't recommend that you do this, but I told Colonel Weir all that, tried to talk him out of his decision, and was very honest with him. He listened to me and said, "Mara, you don't understand. That unit isn't going to change you. You are going to change it." Colonel Weir was a special type of leader, willing to take risks and to give someone a chance regardless of their gender. He didn't select me because I was a woman. He selected me because I was the best person at that time to command that unit. He didn't want me to change myself to lead the unit. He wanted me to lead the unit in my own special way. So I did. There were a lot of skeptics, and some even within the unit I commanded. But by the end of it, though, we got through some tough times. We made it through a 15-month deployment to Iraq at the height of the surge and didn't lose a single trooper. And we won the best engineer unit by coming together as a team. Colonel Weir stood solidly in my corner so that I had the courage, in Eleanor Roosevelt's words, to do one thing every day that scares you. I'm going to let you in on a little secret about Senator Manchin, too, that I know Mary Jo Guidi will agree with me. My boss and our great Senator Manchin, who will speak to you on Friday in person, is a lot like Colonel Weir. He gives the best person a chance, and as such, 75% of Senator Manchin's state staff are women, because women are generally the best people to have on your team. And all of you young ladies have that same background, the same strength and tenacity. You will all be able to do something every day that scares you. And now I'd like to turn it over to my sister, who I know all of you want to hear from, especially because she's had the cool job of helicopter pilot.
Thank you, Major Boggs. And now, she did turn it over to her sister, but I would like to give you her background too. Captain Leanne Campbell Haley was born and raised in Kaiser, West Virginia. During her senior year at Kaiser High School, she was awarded a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship to West Virginia University. Captain Haley attended the Army's Airborne School in Fort Benning, Georgia, and earned her parachutist badge as an ROTC cadet at WVU. She graduated from West Virginia University and was commissioned into the aviation branch of the United States Army. After graduation, she attended the Army's flight school and earned her wings as a UH-60L Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Her prior duty assignments include the Army's elite 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where she served in the 82nd Combat Aviation Brigade. For several years, she served as a paratrooper with her sister, Major Mara Boggs, at Fort Bragg, where they jumped side by side from numerous airplanes and helicopters. Captain Haley deployed to Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and she flew over 200 combat hours in the Al-Fallujah, Sunni Triangle in Iraq. She also supported Hurricane Katrina disaster relief efforts in New Orleans in 2005. Following her tour at Fort Bragg, Captain Haley completed her master's degree in public administration while stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Following advanced schooling, Captain Haley commanded 350 initial entry soldiers training for their helicopter maintenance certification at Fort Eustis, VA. Captain Haley's highest military awards and decorations include the Air Medal and the Combat Action Badge. Captain Haley has continued her federal service with the Department of Veterans Affairs as a congressional liaison on Capitol Hill, a branch chief at the Board of Veterans Appeals in Washington, D.C., and currently with the Veterans Health Administration in West Virginia. Captain Haley resides in Morgantown, West Virginia with her husband, former Army Captain Jeremy Haley, and 4-year-old daughter Lila. Please join me in welcoming Captain Leanne Haley.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for being here.
So, Katie did one thing that scared her today. She said, Fallujah. And I will say that I am not the cool sister by any means. One funny thing about Mara is that everyone from abroad and at home, everyone in West Virginia, D.C. knows Mara. And everyone always mistakes me for her. So I just got used to, if I was in a hurry and somebody'd say, hey, Mara, how you doing? I'd just say, hey, how you doing? And, so she is all over the place even when she isn't. So she's very popular, and she's my mentor. And after that introduction, Katie, I really don't think I have to give a speech. So thank you so much. Director Serball, distinguished guests, staff, and 2016 West Virginia Girls State honorees, thank you for hosting this wonderful evening. I'm truly honored to participate with you during this special week. I hail from Kaiser, West Virginia, and I earned a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship to WVU upon graduating Kaiser High School. My sister is and always has been a motivating force behind many of my professional life decisions, as she is several years my senior. I'm truly humbled to be standing here today. As a female from a small town in West Virginia, I did not know what to expect from military service, other than that I was promised I could travel the world. I realized after my combat tour in Iraq that the military delivered on that promise. During my time as a cadet and a college student, I was indoctrinated into the military culture. My first experience away from home was at airborne school at Fort Benning, Georgia, where I learned to hurl myself out of a perfectly good airplane and somehow land safely on the ground below. In fact, my flight from Morgantown to Georgia was the first of my life, and I ended up jumping out more times than I had landed in an airplane. While at airborne training, I decided I'd rather fly the aircraft than jump from it, which led to my decision to become an Army aviator. Little did I realize I would soon have to do both. Upon graduation from WVU, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant into the active Army, and I was off to flight school in Alabama, where I would qualify as a UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Don't worry, I stayed true to my Mountaineer pride, even amongst an overwhelming amount of Auburn and Alabama fans. After flight school, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, in the 82nd Airborne Division, where I served with Mara. Out of 14,000 paratroopers assigned there, Mara and I were 2 of approximately 400 females. In this unit, Mara and I had the privilege of once again hurling ourselves from airplanes. Mara was a senior jump master, so basically she followed me out of planes and helicopters to ensure that I jumped. Did I mention I'm terrified of heights? Still green to the Army, I deployed to Iraq, flying in an extremely austere combat environment. Without the support and love from my family and friends back in West Virginia, the deployment would have been unbearable. Through them and through all of my travels in the military, I've always kept West Virginia in my heart, and the spirit of the mountains prevailed through many tough times and challenges. I'm honored to have served my country, and even more proud to have served alongside my sister, who encouraged me and led me down a path of leadership and selfless service. After many years away from West Virginia, I've finally come home and have continued service to West Virginia veterans at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Although I've traveled far and wide, the Mountain State has always been home. To the women of the 2016 Girls State, I challenge you to explore your world, but always remember your home among the hills. You're off to a momentous start being here this week, and regardless of the path you choose, Always remember your West Virginia roots. They hold strong and can never be shaken. Mountaineers are always free. Thank you.
I think maybe the major and the captain and I should have compared notes before we started because we all seem to want to say the same thing. Because I'm going to say something you already did, but I would like all of the Girl State citizens and staff to join me in recognizing their mother, Paula Campbell, for raising such inspiring women and for the sacrifice of allowing her daughters to fight for us in a deployment across overseas. So please recognize her now. And now if I could have you both join me up here, we have a small presentation for you. I have for Captain Leanne Campbell Haley in recognition, wow, and thanks for your service to our country, presented by the American Legion Auxilary Department of West Virginia.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And for Major Mara Campbell Boggs in recognition and thanks for your service to our country, presented by the American Legion Auxiliary Department of West Virginia. They have graciously agreed to accept questions from you all, so if you have any questions for them, now is the time. You don't have to be scared, really. They'll answer your questions. Yeah. Yes, please.
What was that again? For me, it was the leadership and the physical nature of the military, and that you could travel the world, and I didn't want to be a waitress one summer during college, so I enlisted. I mean, yeah. I wanted to go do something different, and then it led to a life-changing experience that really gave me a lot of purpose.
For me, it was my sister. But once I got involved, I learned it was my place to be, and I didn't do that. But I have her to thank for the experience that I had.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, my mom could probably answer this better than I could. I called her like every night of flight school, probably, with my excitement. But I am really terrified of heights. That is the truth. So what better way to challenge one up in a helicopter or jump out of an aircraft? So it's a great feeling. It's one that's unexplainable. They always say the worst day in the cockpit is better than the best day in the office. You know, there's a lot going on, and it takes a lot of multitasking and kind of organization up in the helicopter. But there is a great rush when you're flying, and you're responsible for this big hunk of metal.
Okay.
No, I did not. I earned a 4-year scholarship, and that was a great honor to me to be awarded that. And so I kind of followed through the ROTC path with that and just learned as I went. But really growing up, I don't think either one of us really had the military calling until we joined the military in college. So
I was supposed to go, I had the appointment to go to the Naval Academy, and I was conditionally accepted to go to the Naval Academy, and then at the last minute, my vision test came back, and back then you couldn't have LASIK and get in to the Naval Academy. So this was like April or May, and I didn't even know where I was going to go to school. So after that, but I got into WVU, and it ended up being the right path for me.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Oh, I like it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming, first of all. You're both very inspiring women, and I love seeing that. My question is, were you ever treated differently for being women in the Army? And if so, how did you handle it?
I've been asked this question a lot. Thank you for that question, and I've been asked it a lot. And I don't really remember, except for some of the jobs were closed to me back then, and it was kind of a different time. But if you ran fast and could hang with the guys and just, you know, did your best every day, you were always accepted. And that's kind of what someone up here, her name is retired Colonel Peg Bonson. She was my mentor in college. She taught me that. And I followed that simple guidance my whole career. And I don't know, it was rough, but it was because it was physical and demanding, but I just always ended up being accepted.
With your knowledge of the academy pathway, and how do you compare it to the pathway you took, and what do you like more about what you did, and like how you felt about it?
Could you say that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
With your knowledge of the academy pathway, how would you compare it to the path that you took, and what did you prefer about the path that you took?
Well, I think it's all based on leadership, and we definitely were challenged from day one. I know myself in ROTC to be a leader at whatever you do, and so I think that kind of correlates to the pathway. Mara, do you have any?
For me personally, it was the right choice. My mom always told me God never closes one door without opening another, and as devastating as it was when I got my vision test back and I wasn't going to the Naval Academy, I thought my life was over. And that's where I learned to pick myself up by my bootstraps. And for me, going through ROTC in college, and I actually enlisted in, I told you I wasn't a waitress one summer, I enlisted and went up that route. It was the only path for me because I needed to learn, I needed to be an enlisted soldier and to see it from their perspective. And for me personally, that was the best route.
We have time for one more question.
How difficult is it for you to fight all of your instincts and throw yourself out of a plane?
Well, my mom, my entire life, has told me, no matter what, girl, you got grit. And you know, I'm telling you, don't know how many times I've had to tell myself that to get through a number of life situations. You got grit. And I've been raised to challenge myself at all avenues, and I just thought, you know, this is really going to lead me in a direction that I need to go. I need to challenge myself, and it was not easy. Trust me, it was not easy, but I'm still here and without any serious head injuries, so, you know, I think I did pretty well.
Now I'd like to welcome Assistant Director Dr. Rosemary Thomas to the stage.
Ladies, we have inspiring and then we have inspiring, right? Is this not the truth? Ladies, you are absolutely fabulous. You know, as I sat down there and as we were treated to our entire Flag Day program that we have a couple more pieces to do this evening, but I thought about just where we are already. And it's only Tuesday, right? You all have been addressed by a United States Senator. You've been addressed by a United States Congressman. You've been addressed by a judge. You've been addressed by a number of elected officials. You've been addressed by heroes this evening. You've heard the story of the poppy that was presented to you both visually and audibly by two past presidents of this organization. And one thing that was left out of Irene Weber's bio is that she is an honorary Girl State citizen, and we cannot let that go without recognition. And ladies, make no mistake, the folks that I just mentioned are leaving here thinking that they just spent that amount of time with the future of this state, with the future of this nation, with the people who will hold those titles. The SAL, we thank you so very much. You're investing in us. You took the time to come here and to make that happen, and we so greatly appreciate that. And ladies, you know, I know that it gets a little tiring probably for some of you because quite frankly, many of you have the privilege and the honor of doing a lot of really cool things. Now I'm going to show my limited vocabulary because I couldn't think of a better way to say really cool things. But when you think about that, I want you to think about this, because it only takes one little thing to make the difference for you. It only takes one aspect of the words from these heroic women to change your mind about something. It only takes one aspect of what you heard from our federal officials to change your mind about the way you see and the way you want to see our government. It only takes one song. It only takes one article in the newspaper to make a difference. And I want you to think about this because there's a story that goes with that I love to tell. And I want to tell it to you all this evening. And many of you may already know this story, but I want you to think about it because there are days that you're going to be walking along the beach. Right? Maybe pretty soon, right? But there's a star on the front of this podium because it's part of the American Legion Auxiliary's logo. There are 50 stars on the flag of our great nation that we have celebrated throughout the day. There are 2 superstars up here on this stage. 3, I'll count you, Governor. But there are superstars up here on this stage that will shy away from any spotlight you place upon them because they put the uniform on not for them, but for you and for us and for our future. But I want you to think about the difference that they made, and I want you to think about this story that there was a young lady and she was walking along the beach one morning and the sun was coming up and the tide was going out, and she realized that along her pathway were starfish laying all over the beach. And as she walked, she picked up the starfish and she tossed it back into the ocean because, as you can imagine, when the sun is coming up and the tide is going out, that's not going to bode real well for starfish that are going to get stranded on the beach, right? So she continued to walk along and she picked up the next starfish she came upon and tossed it back into the ocean. Now a jogger was coming towards her and it appeared as if perhaps she were dancing or twirling or something as she leaned down and picked them up and tossed them back into the ocean. And he came upon her and he said, young lady, what are you doing? And she said, well, sir, I've been walking along the beach and I noticed the sun is coming up and the tide is going out, and all of these starfish along this beach, they're not going to be able to survive. I'm trying to save them. And he said, lady, I've been running for about 4 miles. And he said, there are starfish as far as the eye can see. And he said, you don't really need to waste your time because you're not going to make a difference. With that, she walked on to the next starfish. She leaned over, she picked it up, she threw it back into the ocean, and she said, I just made a difference for that one. Ladies, that's what life's about. Every jump, every mission, every chance that you take, everything you do, one day at a time, that one thing that scares you, it's going to make a difference in your life. What you don't realize, but what you need to realize, is that somebody's watching you. Somebody's watching you that helped you get there and they're swelling with pride. Somebody's watching you because they want to get where you are and they're learning with every step that you take and every difference that you make. What we've had here already in the 2 days that you've been here, well, you came in on Sunday, so we'll count that. But think about the people who have taken the time to stand up here and speak to you. Think about the people who have taken the time to invest their time and their money in this program. Think about the people that sent you here. And realize that as the sun comes up and the tide goes out, they chose to make a difference in your life. Let's thank our presenters tonight, both Irene and Katina, if you'll stand up as well. Ladies, thank you so very much. Major and Captain, you have inspired us beyond words. Ladies, please stand up. Let us give you another hand. Thank you again. It was fabulous. I told him I've already gotten. All right, so I think that we are going to have a nice little finale to our Flag Day celebration. And I am going to ask Gina Mahan to come on up here because we need her help. Do we need to make any moves up here, Rob, or are we okay? I think we're going to take a short break from our live streaming. And Gina is going to, shall I say, bring us home on this? Okay, I think most of them probably know it, but I have a Wow. Sign them up. They want them back every year. They want their boxes. You can go down. All right. Now, we're going to change it up a little bit, right? I think some of you in this room may be interested in, I don't know, some election results? Are the nationalists interested in election results? How about the feds? How about Girl State? Hey, there we go. Mary Jo Guidi, you coming back again tomorrow? Okay, good. We're glad. Somebody get her a visor. We'll just keep her here all week. That'll be great. All right. So I think at this point in time, we need, I don't know, there's not many chairs up here. I don't know what y'all are going to do. Mr. Wright, thanks again for being here. Tammy, thank you so much. Well, I don't have anything except my phone, which I left up here. I'm glad I came back. I do know that we have maybe something from Kate and Angel. If you all want to come up here, I'll let you take this. Now, what we're going to do, ladies, just so you know, because we have a little change up in the schedule, we will have the results. And then, as we talked about this morning, once the candidates for governor are announced and are identified, we will then take a break. And there are some talent acts that are going to entertain us while we are taking said break, while the gubernatorial candidates prepare themselves for the debate. Okay? So if you all have any plans to call Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or any of those folks to try to get a little help from them, you might want to go ahead and put them on speed dial, because after this, that's when you'll have your 30-minute prep time. But you don't know who you are yet, so I guess I do need to turn it over to Kate and Angel so that they can figure out a way to share with you the information that they have. Ladies?
I don't know about you, Angel, but I'm still not convinced that they want these.
Do the feds want them?
What about the gnats?
Can we please have our two party chairs to the stage? Listen, they're not going to get them if they don't cheer better than that.
Okay, feds, we are not getting our results unless we cheer a little bit louder. So, are you guys ready for the results?
No, guys, I know you can be a lot louder than that, so let's hear it!
Okay, let's try this again. Are we ready for the vote? Are we ready for the election results?
Last chance, come on, girls, let's hear it!
Let them take turns. You guys can go first. You guys yelled so much better than that. Can we give it to you one time? One at a time.
Okie dokie. We're gonna start off with the nationalist candidates for justices of the Supreme Court. And whenever you guys come up, please stay on the stage until all of the candidates have been called, okay? The first name is Sophia Shumway. Tori Swihart. Aaron Guy. Hannah Eshelman. And Taylor Graham. Congratulations, guys.
Okay, and now for the candidates of the Federate Party. Rachel Flanagan. Next we have Taylor Miller. Sadie Hackworth. Brooke Ashby. And finally, Lauren Hopper. And now we have the candidates of the Federalist Attorney General. This is so exciting. Okay, how do you say it? Okay. Devaney Workman.
And now the nationalist candidate for Attorney General is Caroline Farrell. Now we have the nationalist candidate for Commissioner of Agriculture. Elizabeth Cochis.
And now we have the winner of Commissioner of Agriculture for the Federalist, Cassie Stout. The Federalist Treasurer is Hannah Diefenbacher.
The nationalist candidate for treasurer is Sarah Victory. All right, the nationalist candidate for auditor is Sonia Harris.
Okay, and the winner of the Federalist Party for the auditor is Hannah Cummings. So the Federalist elected candidate for the Secretary of State is Cummings. Hold on. Okay. Andrea Eidler.
And the nationalist candidate for Secretary of State is Aaron Ramsey. Okay. Let's give another round of applause for all these lovely ladies.
Okay, in our hands is the winner of the governor for each side. But before we give it up, we need to hear how bad you want it. Feds, I can't hear you. All right, again, louder. Feds.
Let me hear it, come on.
All right.
Okay.
Can we have a drum roll? Ready? We can open them together. And the winners are... Go ahead, you can go first.
Mariah Daffrin.
And Ava Asbury. Congratulations, girls.